Welcome to Concussion Fix Minisodes. These bite-sized clips are taken directly from our full podcast episodes to give you direct answers to your specific questions about persistent concussion symptoms and recovery. Short, clear, and packed with value. Now remember that these clips are not medical advice and you should always speak with your healthcare provider before attempting anything you hear on this channel. Let's go.
Next question here. Hi, during the program, I saw that neck tension and anxiety could be similar symptoms than concussion. However, is it going to be like that forever? I mean, do people who had concussion, will they always have more headaches or symptoms like that when they have a stressful period or at one time, or will it go back to normal? So I think Melinda, should will have some great insight onto this one also.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Dr. Cam, do you want to take it from the neck perspective first, and then I'll kind of piggyback off of that?
Sure. So if you have any kind of tissue injury, it has the propensity to cause problems for a long time, right? Like if I've sprained my left ankle a bunch and I'm more likely to sprain it again, and it's more likely to give me problems. It's probably more likely that it's going to develop arthritic changes, right? So yeah, if you have neck issues, chances are it's going to be one of those things that is going to come back and be a bit of an issue for you moving forward. Now, that also happens with, as we age, things start to hurt and get, not good. So it's not so much looking at it as like, oh, can I ever get better from this? The answer is yes, but is it going to flare up from time to time? Probably, right? Like I mentioned, I have concussion patients that, it turns out it was a neck issue, and I've treated them and they've been good. And then they'll call me every probably 3 to 6 months and be like, hey, I'm starting to get headaches again. I need some work, right? So yeah. Now, depending on how good the treatment and rehab is, you might be able to stave it off for longer, right? But traditionally, neck rehab exercises like TheraBands and chin tucks and all that stuff isn't very good. So, like I said, the best thing I've seen is probably that top spin device. And I think if everyone was doing that, you'd probably have way less recurrent or chronic neck issues. But generally, if you injure any tissue in your body, it's probably going to flare up from time to time. Like I have a left shoulder issue too, and it's flared up on me right now. So it pinches on me when I try to move it across my body and all sorts of stuff. So I just know that I need a bit more work on it. And after that, it'll probably be good for the next 3 years. And then it'll start to flare up on me again. It's just how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just that normalizing of it, the way you're kind of describing it for members, Cam, is really important. Like just normalize that, hey, if this part of me was injured, everybody has something that aches in their bodies, especially as we age. If you can normalize that that's going to happen time to time, and you have sort of a system in place to support you when that happens, that's going to take you a long way. And not just your mindset on how you look at it, but how well you respond to the treatments and how well you cope with those types of flares or dysfunction when it does show up. And then the second piece, we sort of harp on this all the time, but it's this sense of anxiety creates tension in the body, exacerbates symptoms or exacerbates pain. So just always kind of remembering, how am I looking at these flares? How am I looking at these symptoms when they do show up, especially if they're reoccurring? So it can become a very chronic cycle in the mind-body system, and becomes very solidified in our nervous system and in our brain pathways, that if we're anxious and the signal goes to the brain that we're in danger, we tighten, we brace to sort of protect ourselves, then what the message becomes over time is that anytime anxiety spikes, we instantly tighten. And what that does is it actually aggravates the area of the body where the dysfunction is, and it perpetuates a cycle of pain and dysfunction because we're not able to sort of break out of that habit and allow ourselves to, whether you want to say normalize the area, normalize the dysfunction, or relax the muscles. So what we talk about a lot in the recovery mindset module is how you can go about kind of undoing that negative feedback loop that creates and perpetuates pain. So anxiety creates tension in the body, perpetuates pain cycles. Or this algorithm we talk about a lot: pain times resistance equals suffering. So pain is a natural part of life. We can't necessarily avoid that. So normalizing pain, but if we're resisting the pain, whether that's through anxiety, avoidance, any of these things, we're actually adding to our suffering and perpetuating the problem. So this is sort of one of these key pieces from a psychological perspective we talk about a lot in the program to help support these sort of chronicity that can develop with certain types of more long-standing pain. And then the other piece, I don't know if Dr. Herkel, you want to comment, because there's huge amounts of research now about just these anti-inflammatory foods that can really support that reduction in pain. And I know that's such a huge one for everyone that is oftentimes overlooked. So I don't know if you want to comment on that piece.
Yeah, I think the best thing to say is that the latest research is showing that depression, anxiety, all the sensations that you talked about, Melinda, any sort of mood disorders, there's an inflammatory component. So we have these symptoms. We kind of know some of the dysfunction in the neural network. So these are some of the macro kind of perspectives on what's going on with certain thought processes, certain areas of the brain being more activated and less activated. But on a cellular level, which is where I spend a lot of my time, is inflammation is that kind of communication cascade. And so there's evidence showing that eating a diet like the Concussion Fix diet has a beneficial effect on mental health, reduction in symptoms of depression and even things like anxiety. So, I mean, I would say the main contributors to mood in the metabolic realm are going to be, number one, inflammation, and that can be intervened with diet. We can actually make some improvements there. I also think there's certain irritants that contribute to that inflammation. So certain foods, for example, I think the best thing that people can kind of look at is how do they feel after they drink after a concussion. Most people feel more anxious the next day. Their sleep is not good. They might notice that they're more depressed. This is one of the most common pieces of feedback I see from my patients is that alcohol causes dysfunction. To a lesser degree, an inflammatory food is going to cause dysfunction as well. And then finally, I would probably say hormones, Melinda, is probably another huge area that plays a really, really powerful role with mood. And deficiencies in hormones, because hormones are basically the communication, another route of communication between cells and systems. If your hormones are out of balance, especially estrogen, progesterone in women and testosterone in both men and women, you're going to have some major mood issues. And so addressing those, even though that's not on a directly nutritional front, I think that it plays a key role in balancing mood.
I think we just described our concussion fix pyramid so well.
The other thing I'm going to mention also is, go to our wall of fame. There's so many people there who have gone through the program successfully. They've joined the wall of fame. It's definitely able to go back. So I know it was, will I get back to normal? I love the one seminar that Melinda did of what is normal. I don't remember which seminar that was, and we had a huge discussion about what is normal. Normal before, normal after. But you can get back to a very active life. I've been recovered for PCS for over 3 years. So many people have been able to recover. So I just want to share that aspect of it as someone who's gone through the program fully recovered. It is absolutely possible to get back to whatever your quote unquote normal is. And to me, I look at it as I'm actually better now than I was before my PCS. I've grown, I've changed. I will never, I'm not who I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm an even better person that I was at that point before the PCS, because I've learned so much and been able to grow so much. So yes, you can get back to whatever you wish your normal to be, and recover.
Yeah, kind of
So
redefine your normal.
yeah.
Anytime someone says I want to get back to normal, it in the first session and any client interaction, I'm like, we're just going to start there.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I pick up on, because there is no get back to normal. Because even if you didn't have a brain injury, you'd still be different next year and the year after that and the year after that. But people forget that. They think, time is frozen now because I had a brain injury, and they only remember how they were before the brain injury. But the truth is that as life evolves, we change, things happen, uncomfortable things and difficult things and challenges happen, but that's a normal part of life. So if we think about getting back to normal, we're actually setting ourselves up for failure, like, right out of the gate. So it's sort of this, like, redefine your normal. What do you want normal to look like? And Nikki, you're not the first person I've heard to say I'm actually functioned better following the program and following recovery, because there was so many underlying things I never really addressed because I didn't have to. So that's great. Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah, we often make changes out of necessity, and a lot of those changes can be for the better. So yeah, and I mean, I don't want to get this lost to say, like, because a lot of times practitioners will tell their patients, well, this is your new normal. This is as good as it gets. And I don't think that's the case. Like, we can always get better. I can always get stronger. I can always learn more. I can always eat better. I can always, you know what I mean? You can always optimize little things that are going to just improve your overall situation. But any experience that you have ultimately makes you who you are. And so getting through this, which is one of the most difficult things for so many people to recover from, is going to make you a stronger person, a more resilient person, a person that's able to tackle so much more in your life, right? Now, is that going to be normal? No, it's going to be different, but you're going to feel good and you're going to be able to do all the things you want to do. But you're going to be forever changed, and that's just the way it is. Thanks for listening to this Concussion Fix Minisode. If you want to learn more about the causes of persistent concussion symptoms and how to fix them, join one of our upcoming free 90-minute patient webinars. Details and sign-up links are in the description. You'll see that with the right approach, recovery is possible. See you there.